What's up, folks? What you're looking at here is a transmission that I had pulled out. This is the core for the previous transmission in the 2002 Chevy Avalanche. It's an 8.1 engine, 2500. What I currently got going on, the current transmission that I put in there with 125,000 miles took a crap. And just to be straight up and transparent, yes, there's a backstory. This one right here wound up failing because of shifting discrepancy between I want to say it was 2 and 3 transition. We'll get a check engine light code and we'll go into limp mode. I don't remember the code, but likely the clutch packs have just failed inside of here. And I'll explain my reasoning why later if I can remember. But the clutch pack failed. There was a slow transition into, I want to say, third gear. It was one of those gears, and it just didn't cooperate. So, long story short, it needed a transmission. Got transmission in there that had 125k, worked fine. This truck got it out for me, be straight up. And the oil cooler that was replaced from somebody else had lost the hose and lost the fluid. Had to come back, repaired it, and then there was some issues going into gear. There was some service bulletins in regards to this, and all of it was related to the valve body. And it was vague, but there were some other issues that this transmission could encounter when something like this happened as a result of loss of fluid. But I'm really rolling the dice on this and saying that I'm going to just change the valve body off the old one. Now, I'm going to show you the old one. I took that off and cleaned everything thoroughly. Took the separator plate, accumulators, all that stuff off. Did a resistance test on the solenoids. Checked the manual valve bodies to make sure that's fine. I'll go back over that when we look at it. But the current state I am in now, I'm not too terribly familiar with transmissions, automatics like that, but I have a vague understanding of how they work. But I just I took the valve body off of this one. I just white out the check balls where they're located, because I know when I go under the transmission, I have to pull those out. They're going to fall, so I just want to make a note where they are. I do have diagrams also on Identifix of the specific locations. So, and then, I can kind of reverse engineer it, look at what's going on, and see what needs to happen. Here's like a small accumulator here. I'm not sure what that go to, but you can see how dirty it is. It was pretty dirty in here. I did take the filtering out before and clean it and try, obviously, changing the fluid first to see if they'll rectify the issue we had, but there was no avail, obviously, because we got the transmission out. And I just want to look inside of this accumulator here, see what it looks like. This was pretty dirty, with clutch material just real black, just sediments in there. The valve body, the valve body issue on the service bulletins I saw, it did state it will be some shifting discrepancies. Let's take a look at the valve body. It did say it was going to be some shifting discrepancies. And one of them was a delay engagement. Now, we'll say the current state of the transmission, if I put it into reverse, it goes fine. If I put it in drive and it's warm, I rev it up, it'll about 3,000 RPM, it'll try to engage, and once it engages, it shifts perfect. I mean, I can drive it anywhere. I can drive it to Canada if I want to. I'm not very far from Canada, but the transmission will shift perfect is my point. So that's what leads me to assume it's not a clutch pack issue. It's not a shift solenoid issue. It's going to be somewhere in the valve body. And I'm hoping that the contaminants inside of it are part of the issue. So when I pulled this valve body apart, I did take the separator plate off. There was a little filter inside of here. I took that out, cleaned that, and checked the mechanical, valves inside there, make sure they came back freely. That was perfectly fine. And I did a resistance check on the solenoids, and this has 222,000 miles on this one. Took this assembly off, cleaned that thoroughly, cleaned everything thoroughly, and just pretty much got it reassembled. here's the pressure switches here. This is where it utilized to monitor the pressures of the valve body. Got that cleaned off real good. Those are just 8 millimeters. All the rest of the fasteners here are just 10. This is the only thing that holds 8 millimeter fasteners or bolts, however you want to call it. So the solenoids, they can have a good resistance value, but they still can fail. I'm going to go through the quick test of solenoids here. I'm going to show you how I tested those, and I'm going to show you the specifications. And you know, we can all see that there are specifications here, all within spec. And I guess the next video you'll see is me pulling the valve body out and try to make it as clean as possible. It's my 4th time going in it, so yeah. All right, let me get this hooked up. All right, so one of these is a 1-2 shift solenoid, and another one's a 3-4. And then we have the torque converter lockup on this side. In the back, you can see that it's got the brown looking connector, and then we got the pressure control solenoid here. These are all within specification. I can't remember all of them, but these were let's see, these, test my stuff here. Probably pushed the button by mistake. Okay, test your stuff before you start. Test your connectors before you start testing the component. Now, these are supposed to be around 22 ohms. This was supposed to be around 5 ohms. And this one was, I want to say, I'll post it up there. We'll see it. Let's see what we got here. $21 ohms also. We've got our pressure control. That was around 4, okay, around 4 ohms. About 11 ohms on that torque converter. So I don't have to test those, but I just wanted to test them anyway. The real debate is like, should I just take the solenoids out, the one with the lower miles, swap them out while I have the valve body out because I know they work? Or should I just leave these in here and I had a check engine light even though I know the clutches failed? It's one of those dilemmas. You know, you don't want to go back in there. But again, I mean, I know the clutches failed. I mean, when I took that pan out for the first time, I mean, it looked like a grenade just kind of went off inside of it. So I think I might just leave them in here. I took all the solenoids out, cleaned the screens, cleaned everything inside of here. This is spotless on the inside. So I know for a fact the valves are free. They mechanically work. The filter's clean. Gasket's okay. This accumulator, this cover here, everything under there is clean. Pressure, all this stuff is fine. So I know this works. I'm just trying to leave it having to utilize a 6-month warranty, and I already filed a claim for it. And that one time I did not get insurance on the transmission or the component. It's a possibility I might have to use that. So I'm kind of SOL at the moment if I have to pull 8 hours and pull that transmission out. I know I'm not going to get paid what I did originally. However, I will get compensated for it if I did have it. And, you know, this year ain't been the greatest, so I might just have to swallow my pride and eat that. So, again, I mean, I can't imagine anything internally failing with the transmission. And I mean, when I look at the pressure diagram, you know, everything, even if I put it in manual, it goes from the manual valve body on through the normal pathway to engage the 1-2 drive, if I recall properly. looking at the passages. Everything looked like it just put it in manual. It still similarly operates if you were to put it in the drive to where electronically operates. But I'm hoping maybe when we pull the other valve body, the filter may be significantly stopped up, because again, it gets warm, it works. You can rev it up and it'll engage. So hopefully that filter that's in here is stopped up significantly. Or there's some issues with a check ball. I'm hoping that. Because there's logically nothing else that could potentially go wrong internally, because we have transitioning which is well, so I can negate the solenoids. Reverse works perfectly fine. So the torque converter, all that, the pressure's great. So yeah, if anybody else having these issues, luckily these transmissions are older. This one I'm working on is older to where it's half serviceable, so I can half go through this and get it right. We'll see what happens. So let me I gotta do some stuff to my personal car. I want to quieten it up, put a muffler on there, and which may be a flash for you. It's gonna be a couple hours for me, because next thing we'll see is me pulling that pan down and the valve assembly, this valve body. And then cool thing is we'll pull the valve assembly apart, assuming that it's work, and then we can dissect that and see exactly what happened. And hopefully when we pull the valve assembly down itself, we'll be able to see if there's any issues with the check ball or anything related. So this should be interesting. And cross your fingers, because if this don't work, this will be approximately 3 hours wasted. If it do work, I'll save some time. They can go on about their life, and this truck can come back for other issues because it's old. So one of the two. Either it is going to work or it's not going to work. All right. So today's the next day. I'm going to start pulling this valve body out and getting this changed out. For those that are, I guess, verbally impaired like I am and need some visual representation of what goes on, I'm going to show you. I got the truck in the garage, but what has to happen, like I was saying, it'll go in reverse fine. Close this door. So it'll go in reverse fine. You have to excuse the cluster there. So it's in reverse. I can back up, but when I put it in drive, there's no go. But I put it in one, it's all the way down to one. There's nothing. I had to let the truck warm up for it to finally engage. If I rev it up, it'll eventually engage. I got my foot on the brake so it won't go run to the door. There it go. So now it's engaged. I can power brake and everything, and it's strong. It's perfectly fine. Let me go up a little more. So it moves. Once it warms up, it sat for like 3 minutes and didn't want to do anything. I kept revving the engine up to about three to 4 grand just to snap throttle, and eventually it started to want to engage once it got hot. So that's why I'm under the assumption that filter got to be stopped up inside the valve body. And I'm going to show you that when we get this old one out, assuming that this goes perfect and it worked like it's supposed to, because I don't want to spend 9 hours pulling this transmission out again. So the plan is to just let the front come down, because I drained some of it, and I'm going to drain the remainder. And I'm going to drain the remainder out the drain plug. I got what I could out of it.
So I got a lot of fluid drained out. Now, even though I got all the bolts out, and a lot more fluid drained out than I normally would, I still was able to pull the pan down without having to completely drain as much fluid as I did this round and not make a mess. So let's see. Slide that out. What's going on here? I shouldn't get a lot of drain. So I'm gonna reuse everything, the fluid, because the fluid's fine. I'm gonna strain it. I know it's not recommended, but there's a reason as to why. I'm pretty sure if you work on Chevy transmission, you'll understand why you'll want to potentially reuse the fluid or just strain it the best you can. I mean, the filter's new, so I'm not going to worry about it. The main thing is the valve body being clean. So we'll work on getting this out. I'll put the old pan down here and let it continue to drain out, and we'll look inside the pan, and while that's dripping, we'll look inside this pan here, see if there's any clutch material in here, which I doubt. All right, so here's the pan, here's the filter, and we got a visual of the fluid and stuff. So like I said, I'm reusing the new filter I had. I mean, the filter looks perfectly fine. Hello. I mean, it does a great job of straining. So, like I said, it's brand new. We got some particulates in there, but that is, like I said, it's doing its job. Assuming that valve body is defective, you know, it's straining like it's supposed to, and it don't have that many miles on it. So we're gonna put this off to the side. Here's the fluid. We do have some clutch material inside there. I did clean that magnet out before. Let's see what it looks like. Doesn't really look that good. We have shavings in there, clutch shavings. I didn't expect that much to be in there. So again, it engaged perfectly fine. So this is the thing. I mean, the dilemma I'm kind of dealing with now. It engaged fine. The clutches are good. It is strong. It's just a delay. And again, that seemed like it's pertaining to the valve body. So we're going to get that valve body out and put the one I cleaned up very good in there and get this stuff back installed. Let me get this filter fluid put somewhere. Alright, there's our pan with most of the fluid drained out, and yes, it is dirty. Again, it engaged great, and I'm trying not to be in a denial state here. It has good engagement when it transitioned from gear to gear. I really think the valve body is just still dirty. I'm trying to be optimistic. Bear with me. So I'm hoping that the valve body has debris in there and potentially some issues with the check ball. So we're going to get all this stuff cleaned out again and the valve body pulled down. Alright, so we got the pan cleaned out. Let's start pulling the valve body out. Here's our pressure switch here. I could consider reusing that because I mean I know that worked fine. My biggest thing is the check valves that come out of here. Like I said, I marked the other ones on the other transmissions. So. Manual. Manual valve body there. Oh, that's for the selector. So when you put it in park, drive, reverse, first, neutral, whatever, here, this is it. I'm gonna pull those 8s out, and we should be able to pull this valve body out of there. I left that 110 in there. This should drain quite a bit too. That's a pressure valve. Am I missing one? Yep, I'm missing one in the back here. Am I missing one? Well, should have been all low. Let's see what these look like. They're stopped up pretty bad too. I don't know if you can probably see that well, but they're supposed to be copper colored and they're pretty black. I'm gonna leave that down there so we can inspect that later. All right, this is the last one. Ooh. Golly. I think times is passing. Yeah. Okay, where's those check balls? They're all on the top. I mean, it's, I know I count 1, 2, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8. Huh. Big check balls. What if I can get this to sit? Oh shit. That shit scared me. Accumulator. So I'm gonna try to leave. Alright, I do have the valve body installed already. It's not completely installed yet, but I do got the check balls. I had those installed, and I got it just pretty much pressed up against the transmission, just with a couple bolts holding it. Here's the pressure sensor. This is what monitors the pressure on the transmission. And on this plate here, this is the one I pulled out, which was the used transmission I got in there, the one I didn't clean, obviously. You can see the color difference. This is the one that's clean with the 200,000. This is the one that's unclean with the 125. This worked. I'm going to put this back in there. I'm just going to clean it up really good. And you know, we'll see what happens. Assuming that everything goes well, I'm just going to take some brake cleaner and just go through it and clean it up real nice. Just take some compressed air and blow it out. And yeah, here it is. It looks a lot better. So I want to gosh, let's look at it, because I'm kind of debating on whether or not is it worth even recording, putting everything back in there, because you know I really need to focus on everything going back properly versus recording. So we saw how it was pulled out. We're just going to pretty much replace everything in reverse order. Only two fasteners, the 10mm and the 8mm. The 8 only goes to this plate. The rest of the fasteners goes to the valve body. Alright, we're going to start getting the transmission fluid in here. I do have it in like in a clear jug. I'm just going to use what I taken out. I did go through a strainer, so it is like cleaner, you know, as far as like the larger grit that's out of it. And again, I've done 2 flushes on this already, so the fluid's fine. I want to add also, I've had issues in the past where I've used fresh fluid and washed out the clutches and it got worse. So that's part of the reason why I am using partially used fluid and not just flushing it out completely and adding more fresh fluid. This fluid is, like I said, brand new. So the filter is going to serve its purpose, and assuming this worked, this used fluid is going to help keep those clutches working as normal as they're going to work. Again, I'm speculating that the issue with this transmission was inside the valve body, and I'm prepared for it not to work. Just my luck, it's not going to work, but you know, I can always be optimistic. The 3 hours doing this was less than potentially having to remove this transmission. It's just that you run the risk of wasting your time doing this. Alright, I'm gonna start it up and let it circulate and see what happens. Wish me luck. So it's going in reverse fine. I'm kind of nervous about putting it in park. Reverse is fine. Neutral, here's drive. Put it in down on 1. Yeah, we ain't got nothing.
Let me check the fluid level, make sure the fluid's fine, but it should have engaged and drive like it was supposed to. Okay, it did actually engage and drive, and that was less than what I would have had to do. So the biggest test would be right now, if I take it out of reverse into drive, does it immediately engage and drive? So let's see what happens. Cross your fingers. Yeah, it wants to move. It's a little better. So yeah, it engaged now fully. So it's engaged and drive. I'm gonna make sure the fluid is topped off, and then we'll come back and check it. All right, so I did have some new fluid, about half, I want to say about a little bit less than like a third of a gallon. So let's see what happens. It does engage and reverse a lot better. Want to try to engage in first and drive. Kind of similar. So there it goes. It's in drive now. Yeah, still got the same issues. I'm gonna take it on a drive and maybe some things will change. Now update. All right, so valve body didn't work. It pretty much did a little worse. Had like some whining noises manifest. It was worse than what it was previously. Then I had some slippage in third engagement. I know the check balls are in there properly, but that's similar to the symptom that this transmission had. It was slipping in like a transition between like third or something. So it probably had some solenoid problems. And I don't know if you've seen some of my other electrical videos, but you can test the resistance value of electrical components, but that's not a sole determiner if it works appropriately or not. So, and I'm not going back in that transmission either, and I'm done. I'm not going to swap those solenoids. I was thinking about swapping the solenoids anyway because it had less mileage, but you know, I was under the impression, well, the clutch packs, whatever, went out, take the valve body out and replace that, but for whatever reason, it kind of still had similar issues that one was having. So that probably had valve body problems. But when I pulled the pan out, it looked like somebody took a grenade to it too. So I'm just going to pull the transmission out and get another one, and this will be water under the bridge. So hopefully we will have one that we don't have to pay for, because the transmission that we can get immediately, we have to pay an additional $300 for it because of shipping. They don't have it like sitting in the warehouse, which is crazy. I don't know, but because logically you would expect them to have to eat the cost of it, you know, once you think about it, because they're offering a warranty, even though they're giving us a deal by knocking off half the shipping. And I don't know. I'm not paying for that $300 for the shipping. The customer is. Now they do have another alternative. If they get one immediately in the warehouse, then we can we don't have to pay for shipping or anything. So I do want this done and out of the way and gone. But you know, if y'all work on cars, you already know you get overwhelmed very quickly, especially with these comebacks or when things fail. So I'm just wishing that we would have took the remanufacture route initially and not have this issue, or hell, even I still wouldn't have been qualified for the insurance on this because it had over 100,000 miles. They only offer the labor claim if it has under 100,000. But long story. But either way, it didn't work, and like I say, testing the resistance value in these components isn't reliable. Then you really need to be pressure tested in like some type of bench test in comparison with the resistance value test. It's just so unreliable. I mean, they can have a good circuit, but as far as the mechanical issues or the electrical, the pin tool or whatever oscillates inside of it, it could be failing. It could be weak. But live and learn. And if anything, I don't know, if the damn thing miraculously start working, I'll definitely update. But other than that, hit that link, subscribe to the channel, stay informed, head to reinsurance my work. See you on the next one.